As I was scrolling through YouTube, I came across Dogen's video on the rise of anti-foreigner sentiment in Japan. I really enjoyed his take, but I also think there's important context missing, especially around Sanseito's place in Japanese politics and their rise. So the purpose of this video is to add the additional context and look more closely at why Sanseito is gaining attention. This isn't about fear-mongering, it's about seeing the bigger picture, because the situation isn't quite as simple as it might seem. And just to be clear, I have a lot of respect for Dogen. I've been watching his videos for years. So even though it feels a bit strange to make a video responding to his, I'm doing this from a place of total respect. If you haven't seen his video yet, I recommend that you all check it out. So before we dive deeper, let's quickly talk about the Sanseito. As I mentioned in this video, Sanseito is a conservative party that's often labeled far-right because of its stance on immigration and globalization. In his video, Dogen points out that Western observers are exaggerating Sanseito's rise. To make his case, he notes that the party only holds 15 out of 248 seats in the House of Councillors. On paper, that's tiny, so it's incorrect to call Sanseito the new face of Japan. And while I agree that Sanseito is definitely not the new face of Japan, we need some context. 15 seats in Japan can actually be politically significant. Japan has a multi-party system, which means smaller parties can still influence the political process. This is partly because the House of Councillors uses multi-member districts, where several representatives can be elected from the same district. Even a small party can win a seat if it has concentrated support. For comparison, countries like the US or UK have two dominant parties because of their first-past-the-post system, where only the candidate with the most votes wins. In Japan's upper house, most seats are elected through multi-member districts using a system similar to first-past-the-post, where several candidates win in the same district, and there's also a nationwide proportional representation block. Understanding this helps explain how smaller parties like Sanseito can gain visibility even with relatively few seats. Here's the key takeaway. In this summer's election, Sanseito was the third most popular party in terms of proportional votes, even ahead of the main opposition, the Constitutional Democratic Party. That's 12.5% of all PR votes. So yes, if you look at total seats, Sanseito is tiny compared to the largest parties. But if you focus on the nationwide proportional votes, their rise is significant. Take the Tokyo Prefecture upper house election as another example. Out of 7 seats, Sanseito came in second place. There's 2 more reasons this matters. First, any party with more than 10 seats can propose bills. Sanseito's first bill was to ban flag desecration. Now, the ruling LDP Japan Innovation Party coalition also supports banning flag desecration. But Sanseito was the first to formally propose it. When the coalition pushes this bill in 2026, Sanseito can claim credit for submitting this bill first. Second, in a multi-party system, small parties can wield outsized influence, especially when the ruling coalition doesn't hold a majority in the upper house. Currently, the LDP-JIP coalition has a majority in the lower house, but not the upper house. That means every bill moving to the upper house needs support from smaller parties. This is exactly why the DPP gained attention after the 2024 lower house election. They only had roughly 30 seats, but the support could help the ruling coalition secure a majority. Even more recently, to secure her premiership, Takaichi reached out to Sanseito in late October. That shows how even a small party can exercise influence beyond its seat count, especially if it continues to grow its voter base. And this isn't unique to Japan. In countries with proportional representation, small parties can have an outsized impact. For example, in Germany, the Alternative for Deutschland started as a fringe party, but it now polls around 20% nationally and has influenced political debates without ever holding a majority. In the Netherlands, the Party for Freedom began as a minor party, but has grown to become one of the largest parties in parliament. Both countries use proportional representation systems, showing how even relatively small parties can shape national discussions, which is exactly the kind of path Sanseito could be on. Dogen explains that many Sanseito supporters are worried about a so-called silent invasion, and he links some of this sentiment to the Unification Church scandal. His explanation of that issue was great. The LDP's ties to the church absolutely damaged public trust, and that frustration did push some voters away from the LDP. But I don't think the Unification Church was the main driver behind Sanseito's rise. When we look back at the 2025 upper house exit polls from Yomiuri Shimbun, the Unification Church barely appeared as a major voter concern. Part of the reason is that the Tokyo District Court issued a dissolution order against the group in early 2025. What did appear was policies related to foreigners, which came in fourth. And this matters, because when Sanseito voters talk about silent invasion, the Unification Church is just one example. They have many others they point to, and these examples circulate heavily online. One major issue frequently raised is foreign land purchases. In Japan, foreigners could buy most types of land almost as freely as Japanese citizens. There are very few nationality-based ownership restrictions. Prime Minister Takaichi has already announced that land regulations will be a major policy item in early 2026. So this isn't just fringe talk, it has entered mainstream policy debate. Another point is simply the growing number of foreign residents and workers. According to the Nikkei, Japan's construction, medical, and welfare sectors have been increasingly dependent on foreign labor. Since 2014, the number of foreign workers in these fields has jumped 8 to 9 times. Tokyo now has 1 foreign worker for every 14 workers. And while Japan's population continues shrinking, the number of foreign residents increased by about 11% since last year. And then there are amplified news events that go viral on social media. Complaints about Kurdish refugees in Saitama circulate constantly. Lawmakers have openly raised concerns about housing schemes connected to Chinese investors. Media reports suggest a Chinese-linked group is trafficking fentanyl through Nagoya. These incidents don't define the entire foreign community at all. But online, they often get stitched together into a narrative that fuels fear and, unfortunately, sometimes xenophobia. And while xenophobia is never acceptable, dismissing people's concerns entirely doesn't work either. These incidents highlight policy gaps, and that's exactly the ground Sanseito has been operating on. Dogen is absolutely right that Sanseito's online presence is a huge part of the momentum. Japan has one of the world's highest X usage rates. About half of the population uses this platform, and since Elon Musk bought X, conservative content has performed especially well. But I also want to expand on this, because Sanseito's rise isn't only about social media. Other parties like the DPP also post frequent content-rich policy videos. It's no coincidence that the DPP and Sanseito were the second and third most voted parties in the PR section of the 2025 upper house election. What separates Sanseito from the rest is its offline strategy. They run seminars, host recurring community events, and distribute both free and paid newsletters. This is a great way for them to create superfans. They also maintain multiple local branches across Japan. Their method is a classic grassroots movement, and they've been doing this consistently for years. Now, with all that said, I still arrive at the same big picture conclusion as Dogen. Most Japanese people don't hold anti-foreigner sentiment. When we go back to the 2025 exit polls, roughly 50% of voters chose based on the economy. Add social welfare and population decline, and that becomes roughly 75%. And only around 10% voted with foreigner-related issues in mind, which almost exactly matches the 12% PR vote Sanseito got. You also see huge amounts of Japanese social media content celebrating international culture, food, tourism, and collaboration. This actually reflects daily life in Japan much more than online outreach does. But political pressure is real. Ignoring early warning signs is how you get blindsided. I remember people dismissing Brexit and a potential Trump presidency in 2016. People dismissed the idea that smaller European parties could shift national narratives, but look what happened. Japan also still faces serious structural issues: an unsustainable medical system, a shrinking labor force, and a population decline that will get dramatically worse over the next decade. Immigration policy debates are unavoidable, and whenever those debates heat up, Sanseito's message naturally gets pulled into mainstream discussion. Before I conclude this video, I want to stress something important. We have to return to the data. Look at what's actually happening. what's being exaggerated, and what's being ignored. Numbers can be weaponized, but they can also clarify reality. Japan can absolutely welcome foreign residents and close loopholes at the same time. Those two ideas do not contradict each other. And yes, like Dogen said, lowering the temperature matters. Social media distorts everything. Don't treat every clip you see online like it's the full story. Challenge it. Verify it. Ask for context. Avoid getting rage baited. Japan deserves a higher quality conversation than what the algorithm provides. And finally, one thing we should all keep in mind is jie, or wisdom. It's about seeing things clearly, staying humble, and even showing grace to those who might hate or underestimate you. In the context of politics, it means responding thoughtfully instead of reacting in anger. So yes, we should definitely touch some shibafu, but don't fall asleep on it. Keep an eye out for the weeds, and let's work together to make sure the grass actually stays healthy. That's how you nurture a real community.